All right, 3, 2, 1.
Mark.
Period did a mark. This is weird.
Well, you can do it if you want.
Nope.
You want to do one just to balance things out a little?
You want to do a little mark of your own, Lulu?
Okay, sure. 3, 2, 1.
Mark.
Okay.
You got to
Okay,
leave
now
all that
it's
in.
my
Leave
turn
all
now.
that gold in. Go
Ready?
on,
Well,
Sips,
my
do a
mark was a lot quicker
3,
than yours.
2, 1. Mark.
See that? I
Nice.
think that's better. Yours was too slow, P-Flax. Too
Mine
slow.
was it's a steady growth towards a mark.
3, 2.
Exactly. It's like launching a
One.
spaceship.
3. It's like Thunderbirds.
Thunderbirds, yeah.
Well, look, let the people decide. Leave all that in and let the people decide which mark they liked better.
Thunderbirds are go! Da, 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 da. Good.
Yeah, that's the
cut
Strictly
all
Come
that.
Dancing
Let's
music,
start.
isn't it? Don't cut any of that. It's Lulu was eating a banana, and I was reminded of the fact that a guy I work with, I'm not going to say who, eats a banana by unpeeling the whole thing and eating it like that. And
Oh.
I want to know if anybody else eats things in a weird way. I'm not saying eating weird stuff. Do you have a weird way of eating things? Because I know some people eat things in a way that you think, who the hell eats it like that? And like eating an apple, core and all. That kind of shit.
I don't think I have any weird things like that. I just eat, as far as I know, normally. But who knows, you know.
Right, but that's the point.
Could be weird.
Normal is a variable, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, so when I'm eating, let's say I'm having a roast, right?
Yeah.
I'm not someone who gets a bit of everything on the fork. I'll kind of focus one thing at a time. So let's say I've got, obviously you guys can imagine some kind of nut loaf or whatever, but it's basically the same thing.
Right.
Potatoes, Yorkshire pud, green beans, and roast chicken and gravy. Let's imagine that.
Okay.
I'm not going to go bit of potato, bit of meat, bit of green bean, bit of Yorkshire all on one fork.
Oh,
I'll have
I do
a
that.
bit of Yorkshire. I'll have a bit of chicken. I'll have a bit of this. And
I
don't
like
mix
mixing. I mix. I'm a big mixer.
Yeah.
I'll get a little bit of everything. Like if I eat like a full English breakfast, obviously without the meat.
Right.
So it's like not really a full English. It's like a half English breakfast.
But there's certain combos that are very good. Like
Of course,
the mash and
there are
gravy.
some things I'll mix.
But I like to get like a bit of my vegetarian sausage on there, bit of egg, some yolk, bit of mushroom, maybe 1 or 2 beans, and a bit of bean sauce.
In the mouth, though, P-Flax.
No,
instead of on the
I
fork.
like the
I think it's
flavors
worth
of things
combining in the mouth because
separately.
that implies that you've already got food in your mouth and you're opening your mouth with a mouth full of food to add more food to your mouth, which is weird.
I think it stems from when I was a kid. I would always start eating the thing that I liked the least
Right.
on the plate. So if there was a vegetable I wasn't a big fan, I'll eat pretty much everything. But if there's a vegetable I'm like, that's not one of my favorite vegetables.
Yeah.
But a cold vegetable that's kind of mid is terrible. So I'll eat the vegetables before they go cold. I'll get them in there. And then I think, good, eating the veg. And then I'll save, I will save the very best bit till last. So if I'm having a pork roast, I won't eat the crackling first, even though that's my favorite bit. I'll save that till last. I'll try to work my way through it. But generally speaking, I don't mix it up too much. There are some things where you want a bit of this and a bit of that.
So
but
if you coming back to the meal at hand, the roast chicken, you got the green beans, you got a Yorkshire pudding, and you got some potatoes, right?
Yeah.
So are you just eating all your potatoes first, for example?
No. So
then moving on and doing all the green beans?
No. I don't do it sectionally
that is madness
anymore.
If people do it sectionally.
When I
think
was a
if you're a
kid, I did
kid,
it
you
like
do
that.
it. That's fair enough. But
now I still don't, out of habit, I don't mix.
I think you want to do the
things
mix
up
so
too much. I don't mix too much. I don't like
on
that.
MasterChef.
You're
They're big
everything.
mixers as well. They always
are
mixing. Yeah,
but they're under time pressure.
No, but I think it's like. I think some dishes are meant to be mixed. You're meant
absolutely.
You're meant to just assault yourself with every front.
I'll give you an example. Let's say I have fish fingers, peas, and chips.
Yeah.
I'm not putting chips and fish fingers together.
Right.
But I'll put some peas with a piece of fish finger.
I don't know if I'd have chips and fish fingers. Like I would probably have like fish fingers, peas, and like maybe beans or something.
You wouldn't have chips and fish fingers?
No, it would be one or the other for me.
I don't think that's relatable, really.
I don't know. I think they're
different
both
food
like,
groups.
They are, but they're both kind of stodgy, Like I feel like they're both sort of like I don't want them to share the same space. You know what I mean?
Like, chips and fish fingers. I mean, they fucking go
it's like it's like inviting both your girlfriends over at the same time.
All right, so let me ask: if you have fish,
it
like
is
battered
the most
fish,
kiddie meal, by the way.
It is a kiddie meal, yeah.
Of course, I mean, it wouldn't be chips; it would be potato smileys.
Okay,
course,
sure,
right?
Yeah.
But I mean, if you have fish and chips, I don't think fish fingers and battered fish are that different. They're basically the same.
They're not, but I think fish fingers are just a bit crispier. You know, like battered fish is like it's soft. You know, like and the batter's nice. You
need a new fish and chip shop, my brother.
It's been a while, but last time I had some fish, it was like. It was softer, you know.
It should not be.
It's meant to be.
I mean, it should not be soft. It should be crispy as fuck.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I watched this vid the other day about, I think they call it red chips or orange chips.
Right.
Might be a Midlands thing. It's battered chips.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of that?
I think so, yeah. So I'm not surprised by it.
Chips that have batter on them, and then they're deep fried in batter.
Wow.
Chips in batter. Can you imagine?
I'd eat that. Sounds
Never
good.
heard of it. What won't Northerners batter? That's what I want to know. What won't you batter?
Oh, man. Yeah, I don't know about fish. Fish fingers and chips seems like too much for me. I would have one.
What is your go-to meal these days as a family? Do you cook with the kids and wife?
Cook every night.
Eat at the dinner table?
No, we don't eat at the dinner table. There are two problems. First of all, we have a breakfast bar, but it's not big enough for us to all fit around, essentially. And the dining room table, as it happens, is kind of given over to a bit of a dumping ground, which is unfortunate. But all the cat's stuff has to be up there. It needs to be somewhere that she can get to, because otherwise the dog will eat it. Oh. So she has we give her wet food twice a day, but she has dry food out, because cats like to snack, but they don't overeat the way dogs do. Like if we left dry food out for the dog all day, the dog's just going to eat until her stomach bursts because she's an idiot. But the cat will just go, I'll have
feel good about
couple of bits of that, and then I'll leave it and I'll go off and eat a few bugs, then I'll come back and maybe have another bit of dry food. So we have to keep that at a place she can get to that the dog can't, and that happens to be the dining room table. As a result of that, the cat goes up on the dining room table quite often, and we've decided to store her food up there, and there's other things. So it's just annoyingly, it's become a place where we kind of put things that we need quite often. 4 people, we just don't have the fucking storage space. We've got a bunch of stuff. We just got nowhere to bloody put it. So the dining room table is not clear that often. When we have a big, like Christmas or something like that, we clear it all off, and it's like, where are we going to put all this stuff?
Our dining table is similar, minus the cat stuff.
Right.
It is a dumping ground. Everybody just puts stuff on there.
Yeah.
But we use it every night to eat. So
that's nice.
We have to clear it every night to eat.
Yeah, we can't be doing
There's
that.
stuff everywhere. It's so annoying. And then with all the construction work and stuff as well, it's an added
builders
layer
around the table.
Yeah.
Oh man, it
sounds
crazy.
Nice.
Yeah.
So do you eat with all family members, Sips?
I think Sips does.
I'd say most nights we do. On nights where we have like swimming, you know, my daughters both have a shared swimming lesson, but it's in the evening, so they get back a little bit later. So nights like that, we just grab like cereal or pizza, or we'll make something, but we don't sit around the table. People just eat when and where they can and want to, and that's fine. But yeah, for the most part, we have meals. We sit down, have meals. It's all right. It's pretty good.
So I went to a family get together the weekend.
Your family or some other family?
It was some other family.
Just some other random family.
Another family.
Just wants to feel again.
Family get together.
By my partner's family.
Right.
And
slightly different.
I've met a few of them before. But they've got like the old grandma. They've got, the aunts and uncles and their kids, a whole mix of people, right? And kind of nice, very English.
Was it like Eddie Murphy, Nutty Professor, the family? Was it like that? Was the meal like that? Where everybody just looked exactly like your partner, but in various
There was a little bit
disguises.
Of that, which was a bit unnerving, actually.
Right.
I was like, you got the same nose, like, do you know what I mean, or something like that. It was a little bit. I didn't. For some reason, it was unexpected, but anyway, it didn't really. It didn't throw me that bad, but it did throw me a little. they had all this really cool food, like, and it was like in the kitchen, and it was like, sort of a help yourself. You got plates, and you got the food, and you went and sat down. But they'd not really got enough chairs. Someone hadn't thought about enough chairs, so there was sort of lots of people sat around a dinner table, and then a bunch of people standing kind of by the dinner table.
That is awkward.
But of course, like some more elderly relative would come in and stand. And so a younger relative will be like, "Oh, you sit down here," you see, and they like squeeze them in. And then another elderly relative would come in. So then it was like middle-aged relatives thinking, "Oh, well, am I old enough to give up my chair? Do you know what I mean, for this person?" And so it was kind of like musical chairs of people like fighting over. And then someone pulled in a piano stool, and everyone tried to squeeze around to fit that piano stool in. And so, you know, but then someone else came in, and then we had to try and rotate because the piano stool was really big. And so they said, "Oh, we can fit another stool in here." You know, it was just, so the whole thing was kind of not ruined, but made very awkward by this kind of sort of seating arrangement. Because I think at Christmas dinner or big family get together for a dinner, you do tend to have, sometimes there's two tables, right? Like the kids table or the adults table, right? And I can see why, because a bunch of people were kind of sat in the lounge doing the TV dinner style, right? And so it's like, I just thought it was like something that I think I would have thought about if I'd organized it, you know? And I think it's just easy to forget. Do you like in the evening, Sips, do you make a concerted effort to talk about things that have happened during the day, or like have family meetings? Do you ever have like
nothing
where you
like
discuss family related things?
We naturally do talk about just day-to-day stuff, but the problem is with younger kids is when we eat, it's probably around like 6:30, 7 o'clock at night. We tend to eat, and for not so much for my eldest, but for the other two, they're tired, so the whole thing quickly just spirals into, "I don't want this. I don't want this. I don't. Can you drink your milk properly? I don't want to." Like they just get tired. You know, they're done, sort of thing. So
we got so fed up with eating with the kids and them fighting or complaining or just pushing their food around because they're not particularly hungry.
Yeah,
that we just don't eat with them anymore. We just don't.
I mean, we kind of we kind of still have to because they're small. But I don't know if we necessarily would. I think we would be like a lap tray kind of, you know, in front of the TV sort of family.
That's
like
what
when
me and
everybody's
Mrs.
a bit
F do.
older.
We make the kids eat at the table because they can't be trusted, and we'll sit and watch something on TV, and we'll eat on our laps. But I mean, I know that's not ideal. But it's like eating with the kids just drove us fucking crazy.
When I grew up, I was forced to eat around the dining table every day. Not forced, but like, and then a lot of the time, my mum did have this little red book of like family meeting notes. Do you know what I mean? And she'd keep track of the things that were going on. And I dreaded it. I remember dreading it because it was like just awful.
Yeah, that's not great. I remember being a kid sitting around the table, especially like as I was like getting into my teens and stuff, and like it was just silence. Like nobody had anything to say. It was just awkward as hell. Like I was always in a rush. I just wanted to like go out, or I had something else to do or whatever. So it was just, it changes, I guess. But
if it's just me and the girls, I'll eat with them. Like quite often Mrs. F is late. If she has to go into the office, she'll be late. So we'll eat together.
Yeah.
But if there's something I'm like, I'll generally between like my day is that I get up and fanny around in the morning. If we're doing a recording or something, I'll be a bit later. But pretty much as soon as I can, I'll start streaming. So I'll start like 9:30, and I'll go till about 3 or 4. And then I'll stop, and I'll do some other shit in the afternoon that I got to do, or I'll have a fucking nap or whatever.
Yeah.
And then from 6 till 8, I'm downstairs and hanging out with the kids and chatting to them, hanging out with Mrs. F. We'll watch something we want to watch on TV, like a series we're into. And then at 8 o'clock, I come back upstairs and I'll carry on streaming.
Yeah.
Because generally speaking, Mrs. F goes to bed at like 9:30, 10, because she's like an early to bed, early to rise kind of person, the opposite of me. The kids go to their rooms and they've got shit to be getting on with and chatting to their mates. So in terms of family time during the week, it's pretty limited. And I think that's pretty standard. Most people don't spend a huge amount of time with their kids when they're older because they've got school, They go to their mates after school. When I was a kid, I didn't want to
It's-
fucking hang out with my parents when I was 15.
It's true.
No, of course not.
So I'm like, why would I expect that? Oh, the family time. It's like, I'm not going to be that parent that's like, you have to spend time with me. I think that's selfish. They're having their own shit going on, and they're not 5.
They're
They're not
busy,
like
yeah.
Sips' kids. They're
No,
older
they're
kids,
small,
so they
yeah.
want to go and do shit.
It's weird
So I'm
too.
going to be like, yeah, go for it.
We don't feel overly like sitting down and eating dinner together is required because neither myself or my wife we don't work away from the home. We're home all
Right.
day. I mean, I'm out here doing stuff, but I'm inside all the time. Like I see them a lot throughout the day,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it's not
of
like
course.
some big like, whoa, Dad's home. Like
Right.
I've been here all day. Like I picked you
Yeah.
up from school, I took you to school. Like I've done all these things.
Yeah, there's lots of time
So
together.
it's not like oh hey stranger, I haven't seen you like all day sort of thing. Like I'm bumping into them all the time, like in
Right.
contact with them. So it's
I think that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, you
'Cause
do,
like you
because
said, in the past,
yeah.
I mean, I would see my dad for maybe an hour or 2 in the evening tops.
Oh my god, I don't think
And-
I ever saw mine.
Yeah,
I
it was
don't
like
even
he would
remember.
leave for work before I got up,
Yeah,
and then he would come home and I would be nearly at bed. I'd be in my pajamas. I'd be finishing off watching the Muppet Show,
yeah,
and then straight up to bed. Like I don't even remember us having dinner together very often.
yeah. Well, my dad
I
did
d-
shift work when we were really young, so he would sleep all day, and then he'd get up,
Yeah.
have something to eat, and go to work all night. So like I never saw him. Like
Yeah, it sucks.
the only time I saw him is when he was angry and would yell at us for pissing off my mom or whatever. But yeah, otherwise, like just holidays.
You cancel our living end. That's the final straw. You upset your mother for the 50th time.
Yeah, it was like very much like that. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just my family thing, or it was like an 80s
No, I think
thing.
that was an 80s thing.
Yeah.
I would hope, although I'm sure it's still the case. I mean, a lot of people have a few days working from home if they have like a officey kind of job, especially post-COVID. There's a lot more working from home.
Yeah.
Mrs. F goes in about twice a week.
Oh, that's not
And on
bad.
those days, she leaves before or around the same time that the girls do. Actually, she leaves quite a bit before them. So they might see her for 10 minutes in the morning, and then she will get home about 7:30, 8, sometimes later. So
Good.
they literally might not see her. So when she was working 5 days a week in the office, they genuinely hardly saw her.
This is
So
great. Great info. I'm gonna update my tracking profile for your wife. So just 'cause now I know exactly when she's coming and going and
Yeah,
stuff. It
all
really
you're going to do is
helps.
find her in a city of 8 million
Connects
people.
up the
Like,
dots big time. Like it's good.
We've narrowed it down to she goes to work sometimes. Too much detail.
Yeah.
The Russian spy house is on it. Make a note of that. She goes to work. People still ask me about the Russian spy house.
Oh god,
It's
is
just
it
some
still...
nice family living in that house now. It's like,
Oh,
it's,
they moved away.
That's what you think.
yeah, it's a nice. Yes, we are a nice family. Please continue talking with window open.
Oh man. Yeah, my mom went back to work. I think I must have been about 8. My brother is younger, so she stayed home for a bit with my brother and then went back to work. I remember being fairly young and letting myself in, and like after school being home alone for a couple of hours. I must have been probably my son's age, maybe a bit younger. The first couple of times I did that, I was petrified. Like every little sound in the house, I thought there was like somebody hiding in the house trying to kill me and stuff. And I remember running outside onto my driveway one time because I heard something in the house. I ran outside onto the driveway, but I tried to make it seem like I was just out there puttering around anyway. And I look across the road and my friend was on his driveway as well. And I was like, oh, hey, what are you doing? He's like, I heard a noise. we both ran out onto our driveways at the same time because we were both scared. We were like 10 years old. We were scared
That's
to be
funny.
home alone. It was funny. Yeah.
I remember, but I used to spend quite a bit of time home alone because my mum, obviously, she didn't have. This is when my parents got divorced. So when we moved to the UK or back to the UK, I would have been. I think she got a job working in an office in the sort of evening shift, not overnight, but up until 11 or 12, like multiple days a week. And it would be me looking after my sister. My sister, I think we would have been about the age that my kids are now, maybe very slightly younger. So I would have been like 13, 14, and my sister would have been 10 or 11. And then for a few years after that, she would go into the office we'd have dinner, she'd go into the office, and I would collect her at midnight, because she kind of wanted some kind of, someone to help walk with her, because it was like within walking distance. But for years, it was just me in the house by myself, looking after my sister, and she would go to her room and I wouldn't see her, and I would be in the living room watching telly or watching movies. But it was a lot of time just me. I never fucked around. Like my sister, as soon as I moved out, she had like some ridiculous party and a bunch of people trashed the house. My mom was like, "You were a much easier child," and all this kind of shit.
Yeah.
But I never fucked around. Like I was genuinely very trustworthy kid. Looking back on it now, I honestly, I'm quite proud of young Flax for not doing anything stupid. I did do 2 stupid things that I can remember distinctly. One of them was I pissed off my sister. She wanted to watch some video, and I wouldn't let her. And in the end, she called my mum up at the office like 5 times, telling her that I was being a terrible brother. And my mum like had to come home from the office to bollock us both.
What the heck?
And then go back into work. And I was like, fuck, I really pissed mum off. The other one was, this is when my mum was still smoking. I took some of her cigarettes and I smoked one. And I'd never smoked a cigarette before. I got such a bad head rush. What do they call it? A whitey? Like when you white out, normally from smoking weed. But I literally couldn't walk. I was like on my hands and knees. I was like horribly sick in the garden, and I thought I was like going to be a smoker. And it almost put me off.
Yeah, it did that the first time you ever smoke is awful. Like you
really
feel like
bad.
Shit.
Yeah, I was like, this is horrible.
It's
what have I done?
That it becomes a habit that people stick with.
I guess that little bit of nicotine gets in your system.
I guess so,
and it's like, this was worth it. It was all worth it.
I think I need some more of that.
But I can remember crawling around in my house and he's going, "What have I done?" like a 14-year-old kid, thinking I'd killed myself somehow.
Oh man,
yeah, it was funny.
We used to smoke in my friend's basement. He had a room in the basement. It started off an unfinished basement and then became a finished basement. And all throughout, we could smoke in his basement because his dad smoked like a chimney. Just this massive chain smoker, smoked in the house, everything. So his whole house was always filled with smoke anyway. So if we went down to the basement, we could smoke and nobody would ever know the difference, right? But he had like a like those round containers that you get shortbreads in for Christmas? He had a tin like that he put all of his butts in. And it was full of butts at one point. He opened his drawer and he's like, "Oh, here, just put the butt in here like when you're done." I opened it up and this thing was just like the butts were like they were like pressed flat like against the bottom of the lid because it was so full.
God.
Yeah, it was pretty gross. It was just the whole basement just fucking stunk as well. But it was one of those places where everybody hung out because you could smoke. And it was, during the winter in Canada, you don't want to be outside. So everybody would go there. We'd play Mario Party and smoke. That's all we would do, like all evening long. It was great though. It's good times.
A good life.
Yeah, I'm surprised I'm still alive.
Honestly,
yeah.
So when did you quit smoking, Sips? Did you ever
quit smoking? Probably when I was like, I smoked as a teenager, and I think I quit. Probably before I came over here for the first time. I was working nights at a grocery store and I was just getting ready to go. I knew I was coming here for a year and I didn't want to smoke over here because I didn't know like the brands. I didn't know if it was going to be more expensive or not or whatever. And I just thought, you know what? I just got to quit cold turkey and never look back. And I did. I just quit. But I smoked for a couple of years, quite a lot as well. But I was able to quit, so it was good.
Did your
probably better
future
to quit
wife
young?
know that you smoked?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Had she smoked before as well?
No, I mean she tried it, but she wasn't like a smoker.
Did she disapprove?
Well, I don't think she was like. I think if I really wanted to, it'd be fine. But I don't. Well, I think
you also became vegetarian for her, kind of thing, though, right?
Yeah. Eventually, I did. Not at first.
Oh, right.
Eventually, it just was easier for me to be vegetarian. I wasn't really eating that much meat at the time anyway because I was living with a vegetarian. So it was just it was really easy to transition into.
So you weren't a vegetarian?
No. Well, I don't think anyone starts as one. Well, not back then anyway. Nowadays, it's probably more likely that somebody will be raised as a vegetarian, but I don't know anyone who's a vegetarian.
My family worked hard to
when I was a kid.
stop me being a vegetarian.
Good on them. Good on them. I've seen those people having vegetarian pets. They try to make their pets vegetarian.
Yeah.
That's fucking stupid.
It's not really fair. No, that's not quite how it works.
Yeah.
Hey, Lewis, what was your situation growing up? Who was working? How much did you spend much time alone?
Well,
Your parents
we grew up
are
in a
older.
little bungalow.
Yeah.
My dad worked in London. I grew up in Essex. My dad worked in London, so we had a long commute. And he would come home late, usually. And but I guess also in my teens, I didn't really have any shared hobbies with my parents. I certainly, my dad did take us to scouts sort of in the evenings sometimes, or go to a scout camp or do stuff like this. Like I felt like I was, spent a decent amount of time with my parents when I was younger, and my mum certainly helped me with early sort of tutoring towards getting into school, and my brother needed a lot of help as well. And so my mum, she's a very smart lady, science degree, and and also quite spiritual. She's a yoga teacher as well and stuff. And so I don't know, like a good influence really on my formative years. But yeah, like as a teenage boy, I was just into video games and anything that did not involve my parents. And recently, I actually, it was my birthday. Just in fact, it's of time of recording. It's next week, but I'm going away next week. So I wrote my parents and I was like, "Oh, how are you doing?" And they were like, "Oh, do you want to come over for your birthday?" I was like, "Oh yeah, sure." So I just sort of came over there and spent the day with them, and I quite enjoyed it. And afterwards, I was almost like, that's weird, because I don't normally enjoy hanging out with my parents, and I don't normally make an effort to do so. But I found myself having a fun time. We went, had a meal, had a walk around, visited like a church, just chat, nice chat. I think in small doses, my parents are great.
I think it's a weird one with parents, right? I think your parents either slot into your life or they don't. It's like if they cause like any friction whatsoever, you're more likely to say, "I don't really want to deal with you at all," sort of thing. But if they're easygoing, like my wife's parents are really easygoing, and they just sort of slot into our life perfectly. So we see them a lot as a result. You know what I mean?
There's this idea that like the first, when you meet someone, they're perfect, right? Because you seem to get along. You're both making an effort to be accommodated towards each other. But then as you get to know each other, you start to get comfortable, and suddenly someone might say something that's completely out there, and you're like, "Oh, okay," and suddenly you're like, "Who is this person? Like, and why am I?" And there is an element of being able to feel more comfortable around a stranger and tell them things that you wouldn't tell someone closer to you, right?
Yeah.
Because they're like, well, who is this person? They live on the other side of the country. They're only down, for here. I can tell them anything. There is this kind of strange phenomenon of that. But I do feel like it's a little bit like with my parents. Like if I spend the day with them and we keep the topics on sensible things, it's a good time. But, if we start, it ended up, arguing about, I don't know. Do you know what I mean? There'll be something that happens, and it's like, I don't want to tell you how I really feel about this because it will upset you. Kind of thing.
I think, especially with older relatives, I'm sure everybody's like, especially nowadays, I think it feels like politics is so divisive that having conversation with older relatives, or if you're older with younger relatives, can sometimes feel like, I don't even know you. Like, what world do you live in where any of this makes sense? Like, that's how it feels to people these days. Because everything seems so much more polarized and extreme. Feels that way. I don't know if it
feels
is.
That way,
feels that way.
It might be that way to some people.
Yeah, but I mean, certainly, I will say this. My mum, I was talking about this with my youngest, actually. She's quite insightful. Last weekend, I went down and did the walk, the charity walk that
how did that go?
I've been doing a fundraising. It was 18 miles. It went brilliantly. We all finished. Still have some of the blisters are on their way down. It was genuinely hard on the middle-aged
well
body.
Done.
Thank you. It was a beautiful walk. Not in terms of scenery. At times it was, but at times it was just beautiful because we all talked Like I spoke to everyone. There were like 18 of us did the walk, and I had a chat with everyone because we were out for it was like 7 hours or something. We were walking around for. We started the day right. We started on time, walked straight into town. It was a few miles to walk into town. And at 9:30, we had a pint in the Weatherspoons in the town centre.
Okay.
Nice.
And I was like, are we sure we want a pint? Everyone's like, gotta get a pint in. I was like, fine. So we had a pint. And then we walked to my friend's parents' house because his parents are still alive. Obviously, mourning their son. They're too old to do the walk with us, but they were really happy to have all his friends doing this. It was quite emotional for them, obviously. And they laid on lunch for us, which was really nice, and gave us all some beer.
They laid on a lunch.
They laid on some lunch for us, yeah.
Nice.
And then from there, we walked all the way to the finishing point, which was a pub, and we had a good few pints there. Now, my knees really ached after the first few hours, and then I took some ibuprofen. They stopped aching. As the walk kept going on, my hips were aching. It was my hips.
Right.
And I started to get some quite bad blisters on my feet. Even though I had good socks and I had walking shoes, I just never walk 18 miles. It's not something I've ever
not
done.
a lot of people do. Yeah.
Yeah. So my body was just like, this is a lot, and things started to break. But it was fine. It was fine enough that we went clubbing that evening,
Right.
because we were like, we've got to have a large one in his honor. So we went into town and we were I was out till about midnight because I had to drive home the next day. And I was exhausted. But some of my mates stayed out till 3 a.m., which is pretty hardcore for blokes that are nearly 50 and just did this. So honestly, we're now like, shit, we could do this again. And now we're thinking of other places, not as a fundraiser, but just to do walks together because it was so much fun. It really was a great day.
You are at that age now where you're assembling a walking group.
I know.
You just need to find a shopping center that you guys can walk around. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we were
planning a walking holiday.
We are. We were thinking of doing
the cycle continues, doesn't it? Oh my gosh!
Salzburg to Munich is a beautiful walk. It's not over the Alps, but it's Austria to Germany. Salzburg to Munich, stunning. Looks
Think of all
gorgeous.
of that wonderful German beer you can stop and
we're
drink.
going to be hitting those.
Oh man, I would actually do that. That sounds great.
But if we did it over like 4 or 5 days, it'd be something like 20 kilometers a day, which is perfectly doable. But walking is something I'm going to do more of because running, it just fucks.
20 kilometers a day over multiple days, I think would be pretty bad though.
It's not that bad.
Your first day, you'd be like, oh God, I'm glad that's done. And then to wake up and just do 20 more, I think would be rough.
Right. But if you've been walking every weekend, you quickly get to a point where it's really
What about all the
doable.
Blisters and stuff though?
Right. But your feet toughen up.
They
genuinely.
Get all leathery.
They get a little hobbit feet. But I mean, generally, if you're getting blisters that bad, it's because you literally aren't walking often enough.
Yeah, that's it.
Toughen up your feet a little bit with some walking. And, you break in your walking shoes even more. And I think I didn't have them tight enough. I think really tight shoes is kind of the key to stopping blisters because it's just friction. And it's just very slight friction for hours and hours and it wears the skin off. But yeah, so it was great. It was a really, really great day. And I want to say thank you to everyone that donated to the page. I think we got over 7K in the end, which for a little thing like that is we're very, very happy.
That is great. Yeah.
But that was what we did. I can't remember Oh yeah, so that's it. So I brought my daughter with me, my youngest. She stayed with my mum. Because she was like, what's Gaggy going to be doing this weekend? I was like, she's just hanging out. I'm not staying with her. She was like, oh, I'll come and stay with her because she loves her. She's a good granddaughter. She was like, oh, I'll just help her out and cheer her up. I was like, great. So she hung out with her. And on the drive back, we were talking about my mum. And she has this tendency. I don't know if this is an old person thing. I noticed myself doing this and I try because I got it from her. I try so hard not to do it. If you're having a conversation with older people, they're more interested in telling you their story than listening to your story.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that is a thing that older people do where they are waiting to tell you about their fascinating life and everything rather than ask questions.
Yeah.
I think that's an age thing. I wonder if it's because essentially to older people, everyone's a child. I don't care about your stories. You're going to tell me what you did at playgroup today. Who cares? Let me tell you about the time I, dove off an iceberg into the Arctic or something. Like, older people don't seem as intrigued by other people. I don't know if you guys have noticed that.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I think I feel like I don't know what to call it, and for lack of having a term to call it, I think it's a sort of complacency in older people, and the older people they almost get lazier. I don't.
Less
I'm not
curious.
saying. I'm not saying that they're lazy people. I'm just saying that like something happens the older you get, where you just don't really. You sort of lose like little niceties along the way, you know, things that might have made you like a bit more charming, like socially or something like that. It's some weird sort of like complacency or whatever. But I have noticed it, not in everybody, but I've certainly noticed it more so in a couple of the older people I know.
I don't necessarily think it's the old people. I think this is everyone. I think if you find I can't remember what it was, but it was like a way to to make someone fall in love with you is to like let them just talk to you about all their crap and talk back and say and like agree with them. That sounds awful, but the way I'm saying it. But like people love to talk about themselves. People love to share to often just to like try and get some sense into that, like therapy. You know, just talking and getting it out in the open lets them feel comfortable and frame their things in a different light and bounce it off another person. It's very calming to just talk to people. And I often say this podcast's a little bit like that for me. You know, I get to just vent and spout these stories off into the unknown like some weird confessional. And it is nice, right?
Just wait till I tell you guys the story about the time I jumped off an iceberg.
In a sense, your mother probably feels very comfortable around your granddaughter and loves her and feels like she is loved back, and as a result is keen to share these things that she has and enjoys doing. I think it's fun, right? I think it's very unconscious what you'll find yourself doing it. I suppose if you're looking out for it.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily bad. It means that you're enjoying the time with someone you want to. If someone doesn't like spending time with you, they won't talk to you. They won't tell you things. They won't just fill the air with stories.
No,
you know?
They're probably just like too busy being pissed off that you're there.
Like I think that they won't feel like you're worth the breath, you know. Whereas if someone does just talk at you, it usually means they're interested in you and they like you, you know, and they're a friend. Yeah. So you shouldn't feel like it's a bad thing to want to tell people about your stories and want to engage with them and be passionate. And, you know.
True. I think it's weird. I people, you know, they say like, oh, people, you know, don't change much, but I've noticed that like as people get older, certainly like past the age of like 70, people change a little bit, not lots, but a little bit. Little things slip, you know, like it's hard to explain, but like it is something I've noticed. I think Flax probably is saying the same thing, but it's I
think the world contracts. And that's understandable. You don't get out as much.
Yeah.
I would say as well.
They don't have the same level of physical energy they had.
Yeah, of course.
So
but also the
limited.
retention of new information doesn't seem to be as sort of frequent. Like, you know, as people get older, they tend to rely more on their long-term memory, I feel.
Yeah, and they probably don't feel like they're really like part of like, you know, in the same way that like when you're younger, you got like new technology comes out, you embrace it, you adopt it into your life very quickly, and you know it's exciting and stuff like that. But for older people, they just see it as like, oh fuck, why do you need that? Like, what was wrong with the old way? You know, and it's like it is kind of like a you know a common thing, you know, like the grumpy old man yelling at the clouds or whatever. But like for them, it's a lot, right? Like the world has changed a lot. And there probably was a much simpler way of doing things that they got very used to. And now, you know, because they're older and they just get more pissed off about it, or
this is one of those
they don't want to accept it.
So my grandma, obviously, she was she lived through the war, but was young when the war was on, you know, teenager, and you know, quite quickly after that had the pretty familiar setup of getting a job in the post-war, meeting a man at the job, marrying him, having you know kids and settling down and largely doing bits and bobs, but mostly being a housewife. and then sort of, I don't know, just sort of settling down. And she was, when she was getting a bit old and losing her mind a little bit, she it was easier to talk to her about things that had happened a long time ago and about her memories. And I think those were some nice conversations to have, because I think old folks do remember well things that happened to them earlier in their lives, as we all do.
Yeah.
And I think those are comforting things to talk about. They're familiar things to talk about, and they're interesting, right? I'm keen to hear her stories. I actually spoke to an older lady at the event who'd had very interesting life, and she was like old grandma lady, about 90 or something, and she was born in Poland and evacuated out of the war zone pretty young, I think at like 4 years old or something, and ended up as a sort of, I think she was in one of these places that the Russian occupied territory, so the east of Poland, where the Russians came in and they took the territories and they were not giving it back.
Yeah.
And those people, those Polish sort of woodsmen and villagers were not really, they weren't really, didn't really have a place in Soviet society. So they were shipped off to the far-flung reaches of the empire, and I think she ended up in like Archangel or something on the north coast in the freezing cold. And then sort of as the war carried on, they realized that actually they needed all of these people to fight for, so they made a deal with the British to train all these Polish troops and forces in UK. And so she ended up being shipped to a sort of army base in Lebanon, and then an army base somewhere else, and then eventually ended up in a Polish community in Kidderminster in the UK, who had it was a big Polish community, and they had a Polish school and all this. And so she even though she's lived in the UK for effectively 85 years or something, she still speaks Polish as her main language. She married a Polish man, spoke Polish primarily throughout her life. And so I was sort of talking to her, as this sort of British grandma, and I was sort of struggling to sort of, I realized later that, she actually spoke a lot better Polish than she did English. And so all of her relatives would speak to her in Polish as well. But I just, it's amazing that people have such different lives and there's such different diversity. She's clearly, this British grandma, but really still embraces this Polish heritage. But I said to her, "Oh, well, have you ever been back?" And she said, "Well, the village I came from doesn't exist. It's part of, it got integrated to Ukraine, and then it got switched around, and then it got dissolved, and all the people were scattered. It was never a thing." So, but her husband's family in Poland, obviously, who were from West Poland, she's visited them and knows them quite a lot. But yeah, fascinating. People have fascinating lives and their own stories to tell. And yeah, she was sort of talking about, I was talking to her about her working in carpet factories. That was sort of a big Kidderminster thing. They shipped carpets all over the world, and she was a sort of expert weaver in her time.
Carpet
factories in Kidderminster. Apparently, that was the thing.
Fuck Kidderminster.
Yeah. Well, it's not a great place these days. I don't think she lives there now.
No offense, any kiddies in Kidderminster.
No, you've done it. The mailbag's going to be filled. This is the new Wisconsin. This is the new Pennsylvania. You guys have done it. You've opened the gates, the floodgates.
Boring. Yeah. Like a lot of places in the UK, it's just boring. That was what got me walking around Bournemouth.
You were so bored.
It's an awful place now. Like so much of it.
Oh, it's just probably all right.
Dreadful. No, it's really not.
A lot
of the UK is just shit.
We went in the summer. We'd never been before, so we have no context. But we thought it was nice because we'd never been there before.
So
and we were surprised that it was as nice as it was.
But it's a large town. It's like huge, genuinely a very large town.
Yeah.
And walking around it, you realize, I think, when I've been to other countries and walked around small towns and villages and even larger towns, what we have made in this country so little effort to make buildings look not even amazing, not even nice, just decent. They literally look like the lowest effort.
Yeah.
How can we
from a certain point in time
and not give a fuck?
Yeah. A lot of stuff that was built in like the 50s and the 60s looks
it's just awful. There's
fucking
no
terrible.
effort to
I know.
future-proof it. Because even now, and it's led to the new builds we have now are so fucking horrendously ugly. And you look at an old building and you think, why don't we make things like that? It's not that big an effort
Like
to have
Victorian
some nice
stuff, you
looking
mean?
bricks and shit.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not. A little bit of detail around a window. Now it's like, how can we just make it as square and boring squares?
It's money.
Squares.
It's cost cutting.
It cannot cost much more. And if the government just said, look,
It doesn't
you
matter.
can't
Even if it
have
costs 1p
fucking
more, they're
boxes
not
everywhere.
interested.
It's bullshit. How come other people can manage it and we can't?
Who's
What
managing
happened?
it? Nobody.
We knocked down all of these beautiful old buildings. You go to Bournemouth, there used to be, and Bournemouth's not an old town, a lot more really beautiful older buildings. Not that old. Like Victorian and Georgian around that era. And the
Well, those
council
would all
said,
be listed, surely.
no, but no. You want to knock them down and put a boring block of old people flats in? Done. Like they just signed off. So all of this architecture that was once all these big old roads in Bournemouth, you'd walk down, there were genuinely beautiful old houses, gone.
Really?
Gone. Yeah.
I'm
Because
surprised.
honestly, these councils, I feel like our councils in this country, correct me if I'm wrong, council workers, literally were hands off. We don't give a fuck. Knock down whatever you want.
Oh my
Because progress.
God. Well, I watched
and we butchered our landscape. It's
3
terrible.
seasons of Clarkson's Farm, and that council is not like that. Jesus
about
Christ.
the farmland.
You can't
yeah.
even fart on the road without them needing to get involved. It feels
Well,
like it's
we
crazy.
talked about this before. I got some angry emails about it, so I want to steer clear.
Yeah,
God,
well, exactly.
God forbid we criticize Jeremy Clarkson and the editing of that show. That could it? Is it possible that the show created a villain in the council because that makes better television? Is it possible? No, it's not possible. Jeremy Clarkson's 100% right all the time. Ergo, the local council are wicked.
I'm
Case closed. Case closed on that one, lads.
I'm going to go and visit some beautiful English countryside next week. I'm going have a little
Countryside's
break.
beautiful.
I'm going to Cornwall. I'm going to drive
What are you
down
doing
and
there?
stay in a few places. Just try and chill out before.
You're just going on a big chill out retreat.
Yeah, it's not far. It's a couple of hours drive.
Yeah,
Nice.
so you guys, you're
Stay
in the
in-
West Country already.
Have a few walks around the place. I've never really been to Cornwall except when I was a kid.
Really?
And then it was like holiday camp style places.
Cornwall's fantastic. Really, really pretty. But look, anyone out there that lives in the UK, that lives in a small town, especially seaside towns, write in and tell me how great your seaside town is or how shit it is.
I
Because
can't trust Cornwall.
It's that bad.
Because
Why
Cornwall,
not?
Ontario is not a nice place. I've been there many
Oh.
times, and now anytime I hear the name Cornwall, I can't help but smell Cornwall, Ontario. Fucking hell, what a stench. What a stinky,
I think
stinky city.
the New World, obviously, we chucked a lot of names over there that are, there's no relation whatsoever. I mean, look at York and New York. They're not. they're not the same at all. Right?
The Grand Old Duke does not have any power in the Big Apple. He has to stay in original York.
Yeah. I mean, also, which hill is he going to march up and which is he going to march back down? Because I don't think there's really any hills in New York. I can't think of any.
Okay, listen to this. Cornwall does not enjoy a positive environmental reputation as a result of decades of industrial pollution, the legacy of which is a riverfront contaminated by mercury, zinc, lead, and copper, soil contaminated by coal tar, and most evidently, Big Ben, a 44-acre, 80-meter tall dump site within the city filled with paper mill sludge, demolition waste, wood bark, and asbestos.
Ooh,
Yes.
sounds
Okay.
great. Let's go on a trip there.
Although the area is touted as recreational, it is off limits until winter when the waste is covered and the odours are subdued. It is then used as a ski hill.
Yes, wonderful.
Oh, lovely.
Come to Cornwall, everybody.
Yeah.
No thanks.
So
no
infants
thanks.
have 4 times the expected hospital admission rate for asthma. Oh, this is from a while ago, though. Maybe
It
it's
is
better
on the
now.
border of Canada and the US and has a big green bridge, suspension bridge connecting Canada and the US. All
Oh,
along
wow.
the border, they have these big green suspension bridges.
Oh,
And
sounds-
with a little, not a toll booth, but like a passport control place, a customs
okay.
place. I drove as a child. We drove down to the US&A many times. Wasn't far from where we lived, and I remember fondly going to upper state New York. We went to a place called Messina. I had a big shopping center there. I think it was called the Carousel Mall, or maybe that was in Watertown. I can't remember. But anyway, we went there and I bought Super Mario Brothers 3 for the NES, and it was really cheap compared to buying it in Canada.
So there's a Carousel Mall in Syracuse.
Oh, Syracuse. It was Syracuse. Sorry.
Destiny USA, it's called now.
Destiny USA. Nice.
It's a 6-story automobile-oriented super regional shopping, dining, and entertainment complex.
Yeah.
On the shore of Onondaga Lake.
Yeah.
In Syracuse. It is the largest shopping mall in the state of New York and the 9th largest in the country.
Yeah. Well, I bought Super Mario Brothers 3 for the NES there, and it was it was all right.
Yeah.
It was.
You know what the thing with malls is, and I'd say this is true of a lot of malls, is if they start to thin out even a little bit, it's like a cascade effect where it just gets shitter and shitter and shitter.
Yeah.
Like there is one, when we were doing the walk in Bournemouth, we walked through Boscombe. Anyone in Bournemouth will know Boscombe. What a shithole. At one point, it was, I think, the heroin capital of England.
Nice.
It was bad. There is a mall in there. I think it's the Dalkeith Arcade or the Sovereign Centre. I can't remember. Either way, you walk through it. And when you come in the double doors from the bus depot, where obviously people are meant to be getting the bus to this destination mall, you come through the double doors and you don't see a shop for the first 100 meters in the mall. It's all just shut down and empty units.
Yeah.
And then you get into the center and it's like vape shops, cash converters, 1 or 2 stores that are clinging on. Yeah, all that kind of shit. And there's people sat in there. And do you remember in Dawn of the Dead, the original Dawn of the Dead, the way the zombies come to the mall?
Yeah.
And one of the characters asks the other one, why are they coming here? And he's like, wow, it's just some residual memory they've got that they come here. That is malls now.
Yeah.
In the modern era. You go to them, and a lot of them are just residual memories of a shopping center that was thriving and interesting.
Yeah. Because
the problem with the mall is, because it's enclosed, and I think the rents are probably reasonably high in a mall because it's a good destination. The guys who own this huge piece of land that the mall lives on can only charge so little. And so the shops you end up getting there either none or shit. Yeah. And then why would a good shop stay? Well, you don't want to be the best house on the shit road. You want to be the worst house on the best road. Yeah. So, that's true for shops as well. So it's just so desperately sad walking around an old mall. I think it's a dying thing.
We went to a mall in LA when we were out at BlizzCon one year. And we got there a couple of days before BlizzCon started. And one day, I think somebody needed to get some shirts or something. So
someone
we tracked down this
their
mall.
luggage or something, and they have to rebuy their pants and shirts.
God. So we tracked down this mall. Thing. We got an Uber there, and it was 11 a.m. on a Tuesday or something. We go into this mall, and everybody's like, "Oh, this is gonna be great," fucking an actual North American or U.S. mall, everything you've ever seen on TV or whatever. And honestly, it was so deserted. And the only people that were there were it seemed like people that just had nowhere else to go. The type, they're just kind of this is me hanging out at the mall all day. Yeah.
Just going to walk around the mall. I'll drink a coffee, look in a shop, buy one thing.
And I mean, it had all of the cornerstones of a North American mall. There was an Orange Julius, and there was the food court had a Sbarro and
Orange Julius?
It just had all the typical stuff that you would have remembered.
Right, what is an Orange Julius?
Orange Julius is just it's kind of like an orange juice with, I think, ice cream mixed into it. It's
never heard of it.
They're attached to Dairy Queens now. I think Dairy Queen bought them.
How do these shops exist in America? What do you sell? Orange juice.
Yeah.
Well, we have 3 million locations.
Man, I remember as a kid though, we would go to the mall. The mall would be fucking heaving. So packed, and people would have Orange Julius, or they'd have a big bag of Colonel's popcorn, or you know what I mean. People used all of this stuff. I don't know if they do now, but yeah, this mall, the whole experience was just odd. Like it just
So
felt like
just FYI, we I don't think we do know. Like when you say, do you know what I mean? Absolutely
I
not.
guess not,
Like that was
yeah.
not. We didn't have those.
No.
Like you said, when I went to the States, going to a mall was like, holy shit.
Yeah, we had even in Ottawa, we had malls, multiple malls that you could go to, like dotted around. Like there was one in the suburb where I grew up. There was one in between the suburb and downtown that you could go to, which was along like the main bus route. There was a big one like right downtown, which sort of served as like a bus station as well.
Yeah.
And they always had the same food court. They had this like the same shops in it. You know, like there'd be a hallway that had all the clothes stores. So you'd have like Eddie Bauer and the Gap and, you know, whatever, Northern Elements, all the clothes shops. And then you'd have like, some of them had a Disney store. Not all of them did. You'd have like HMV. You'd have like Electronics Boutique. Back when I don't even think Electronics Boutique exists anymore. Radio Shack, those kind of places. And then you'd have like bookstores like Kohl's or something like that. But like they were kind of like, they were destinations if you like, but they were kind of like used for you know, like as like getting places, you know, like they always, like bus stations were always there, big bus stations, you know, so you'd get there and you'd transfer buses. And if you didn't want to wait, you could just go in the mall, get something. But like when I was really small in the 80s, they had huge arcades in there too. And then you could play like Mortal Kombat, all the Capcom versus Marvel games.
I think now Westfield, the Westfield Mall in Shepherd's Bush, or White City is like in London. That's probably the most old school, massive destination mall that I know.
Yeah.
Like it's absolutely huge and it's always busy. And really good. Like there's all kinds of good shops there. Like, but that's so rare.
I remember as a teenager though, it was like you would go like on the weekend, even sometimes like in the evening, like in the you know late afternoon, like after school or whatever. You go on the bus, you go to the mall. Like you'd see people there. Other people would just be hanging out at the mall, outside the mall. You know, it was just like it was kind of a destination, and then. I don't know what happened. It just stopped being one. Like we just never went. And then I remember being sort of like 18, 19, going to college or whatever. I'd have to go into the mall to get something on the way. It'd be just fucking deserted. Like there's just more and more stuff just closed down, pulled out of these malls and stuff. And then they just all became kind of empty, you know, except for like the big downtown ones that, you know, had a lot of foot traffic due to people connecting between trains and buses and stuff like that.
So I know that malls now, obviously, like all high streets, are dying, and a lot of people point to online shopping as being the biggest change. And certainly, most of the stuff that we buy online. We just bought a double bed for one of the kids' rooms, and the only reason we got it online. Like in the old days, we would have gone to a shop, looked at it, ordered delivery. We just got it online.
Yeah.
So many things. I'll still go out. I'll buy clothes online. I will still go out to buy shoes and stuff. But once you know your size and it's a replacement for a shoe type I already had, I'll just fucking buy it online.
Yeah.
I buy books and magazines and comics and all that kind of stuff online. Food, like there's no need to go out. I don't know how many older people buy stuff online. I'm going to assume a decent number, but I know I was talking about the death of malls. In Bournemouth, there's a place called Castle Point where all the shops are focused on this one area and everybody just goes there. So the high street, the town center is dead. And it used to be absolutely rammed on a Saturday.
Yeah.
So are all those people buying stuff online now? Is it something else? Do people have less disposable income? What? There must be multiple factors. It can't just be the internet.
It's not just the internet. You've got superstores just outside the city most of the time now as well, right?
That was the big change, wasn't it? Was supermarkets offering fucking everything.
Yeah, big, like for us, it was like big Walmarts, Loblaws in Canada, like the Loblaws superstores.
Yeah.
And like where I used to live, we had, it was like a pretty quiet suburb. It was huge, but it was fairly quiet. You know, you had like a movie theater. You had the mall, so you'd go to the mall. You have everything that you needed at the mall or whatever. But then slowly stuff started moving away from the mall. Originally at the mall, there was a huge Walmart attached to the mall. So like you would go to Walmart and then you might just go into the mall and do other stuff. You know what I mean? But then they needed a bigger place. So they left the mall and they opened up in what used to just be a huge farm field that was, rezoned, turned into commercial area. And they opened one of those, like the massive, superstores with like the huge parking lagoons, like right on the side of like a really busy road,
Yeah.
but there was like 3 or 4 of them opened pretty much next to each other along this road, and the whole thing has just gone like crazy up there now.
Yeah.
But it's mostly just, they have like their big store, and then you'll have like a little, like a Boston Pizza. It's like it looks like an afterthought. It's like in the middle of the parking lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's just there. It's like some little beacon in the middle of this massive Walmart parking lot. And I think that's the big change. I think that's when people stopped going to the mall and people started heading to these places instead.
Yeah.
Because they could just get everything. Because you get everything there. You get groceries, you get clothes, you can get whatever, like it's the French hypermarkets are the same. Like they've got big,
I guess they are.
Carrefours and whatever, they're all the same.
Lewis, you got any loose news for us?
Oh God, I forgot.
Just a couple.
He fell asleep.
Let me look it up.
This is the only news I actually get.
He fell asleep listening to Mall Talk.
He was busy answering emails, I guarantee it.
We already did Mark Zuckerberg talking about the best Civ player in the world. That's on Loose News.
Challenge extended.
He's a self-appointed best Civ player, though. Like, sorry, I'm just opening a box here.
Oh, we can hear it.
He has no like street cred around it, though. He's never won like a major tournament. He doesn't have like a move like, I'm going to open up with the Zuckerberg. Nobody opens up with the Zuckerberg. So like, what is this guy's claim to fame? I can just say, yeah, I'm a billionaire. I'm not actually one, but you know what I mean? Like, you can say whatever you like. It doesn't make it true.
I'm sure he said it casually and it's been picked up. Also, there was a big Civ cheating scandal recently. I watched a good video.
Really?
Yeah. There's a replay tool that people use, the top level players like on competitive Civ will use the replay tool, Civ 5, to look at previous replays. And it's like the Rythian style 2D tactical view, but there's a way to look at it during the game.
Right.
So you can get hold of that file in an ongoing game and it'll show you where everything is. And there was this guy whose all his scout moves were perfect. So he always made contact with the city-states. He always found the goody huts, and the routes he was taking to settle cities and to find goody huts were so ridiculously suboptimal. The only reason you'd make them is if you knew that where you were moving was worth this move. There was a whole video about it on YouTube. You can look it up.
Oh, man.
Right.
Sounds like
you would fucking love this.
Love that.
I thought you would have seen it. I should have sent it to you.
He's looking it up right now. He's like, this guy's not cheating properly.
But then the guy responded with this big thesis about, it's not cheating. I just have this optimal system that I've come up with. I don't know. It's worth watching it. It's about a 45-minute vid, but it was a good one. Right, lose news.
Okay, this is weird. Kirby.
Kirby?
Yeah.
Jack Kirby, the
Kirby's
Marvel
Adventures in
comic guy.
Dreamland, you mean?
Is Kirby the guy that sucks things into his mouth?
Yeah, he's
That's
the
right.
big cloud.
Yeah.
Which, interestingly, when they released all the games, like the Kirby games, in Japan, he was all cutesy.
Yeah.
But in the West, he has like angry eyes.
Well, he gets pissed off if he eats the wrong thing, I think.
No, but
if he
every
sucks
Japanese
the wrong thing.
So, like, basically, if you compare like the Japanese release with the American release, it's the same art except for Kirby is angry.
Right.
Okay.
Right? Look it up. It's funny as fuck. But every single Japanese game, he's like, "Ha!" And then every American game, he's like, "Huh." I don't know why he's all angry American Kirby, but every single time, I can link it.
Maybe
actually.
he has indigestion.
There you go. Look.
Okay, Kirby Air Ride. He does look a lot more angry. Kirby,
so for anyone who can't see this, imagine if Kirby on the Japanese version has little round eyes like ovals, and he looks like And Kirby Air Ride in the GameCube edition that came out in the West, imagine if instead of being rounded at the top, his eyes are sloping down inwards like he's going grrr.
He looks
like
more
if you drew an angry
to
eye.
me, not angry. He looks like he's more determined.
Right, I think he looks quite cross. He certainly looks unhappy. If you look at the Kirby Amazing Mirror, His face is even downturned.
Yeah.
I mean, he looks cross.
Kirby Canvas Curse. I mean, compared to the is that the Japanese one where
on the left
he looks.
He looks genuinely angry. He's even
in the Japanese one. He looks quite happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that Japanese car manufacturers, when they make the cars, the front of the car, supposedly, this could be absolute bollocks, has to have a nice face.
Oh.
Like the shape of the headlights and the grill and everything can't look like angry Kirby. It has to look like, I'm happy to be your car. Let's go. Let's have fun.
Right.
That's a thing. So I'm sure this is true for their games as well.
I think so. Anyway, Nintendo released some official merchandise, and they spelled Kirby as Carby, my accent.
Carby.
This is like Copenhagen all over again.
You got to get on this quickly, Flax.
This is why I knew
you
you'd
could have
like
your
this
Copenhagen sweater, and then you could have your Carby
hoodie.
Oh no, it's a hoodie. Yeah,
It's I fucking want that Kirby hoodie real bad.
It's meant to look like Kirby's like turned eating you. Do you know what I mean? You've turned into Kirby version of you.
Look that up. Kirby hoodie. These are not official. Some of these are unofficial.
Uh-oh.
That really is very pink. I don't mind wearing pink, but that is very pink.
So, Ecovacs D-Bot X2 robot vacuums.
Yeah.
Okay, in the US, they're like little Roombas or whatever the fuck.
Right.
They over the weekend were hacked. Right.
Oh yeah.
And they were swearing at people. They were chasing pets. It was
that's ridiculous.
Out of control.
One man reported that his vacuum started yelling racial slurs at him.
Exactly.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Makes a change from it being my wife.
I got the impression it was a kid, maybe a teenager. He said maybe they were just jumping from device to device, messing with families. He's turned it off and taken it to his garage where it remains powered down.
Uh-oh.
For now, but at night it comes alive and hoovers the garage.
Yeah.
Growing stronger.
So there you go. Watch out for not the AI taking over. This is kids.
I just imagine this guy tinkering on his robot in his garage like Uncle Owen from Star Wars, like he on the Nerf Herder farm or whatever, just working away into the early hours of the morning on his robot, trying to make it less racist so that he could redeploy it in his house.
Well, this 3PO unit is kind of racist, but sure knows a lot about moisture.
Hello, can you pass me the dilithium capacitor over there? Let's see if we can get this 3PO unit to be less racist.
Oh, speaking of which, I saw a TikTok of a 1940s Batman, a film, like a Batman film that was made in the 40s during the Second World War. And it's Batman basically going after Japanese people. And him and his colleagues giving a whole bunch of racial slurs to Japanese people because they were in the middle of, this was post Pearl Harbor,
right?
And there was a lot of racism. It's pretty remarkable to see. Hopefully, it's not canon. Hopefully, it's not now canon that Batman doesn't like Japanese people. But in this version of this film, he fucking hates them, and he's not afraid to tell them. It's something else.
Jesus Christ!
You should look it up.
So next up. The World Conquer Championships have been investigating cheating.
Bad cheating.
After the winner was found with a steel nut. They are looking at video evidence. So, David Jakins, 82, was victorious in the World Conquer Championships. He's a veteran player known as King Conquer, and he recorded several victories where he destroyed another player's Conquer in one hit. He denies cheating and says he has the steel nut on him for humor value.
He says it's impossible to cheat at Conkers. It's a load of nonsense. It's not impossible. People have cheated at Conkers since I was a kid. You did what you varnished them. You'd hollow out the middle and put metal in there. All kinds of shit.
Yeah,
idiot. So apparently, players' Conkers are randomly selected from a sack, and he denied any suggestions. He marked any strings to highlight hard nuts or used the brown painted fake steel Conquer.
Jesus Christ.
It's
big news.
It's very big news. So he was watched by 4 judges and it was videoed, so they are currently looking into this.
Honestly, I thought online cheating was bad. People just cheating all the time now.
Why couldn't they be more like chess and just have vibrating anal beads?
There was another chess scandal that came out the other day.
Really?
You hear about this?
No.
This player hid a phone in the toilet.
Right.
And when he was involved in a big game, he'd go into the toilet, he'd look up on the chess engine what would be the optimal move and make that, because like at that level, you're all very good, but you don't need much more help than a couple of moves.
Yeah, but
and
so
you're
this
gonna
guy is
win.
going to the toilet before every single one of his moves?
No.
Oh, just like
That's the
really
point.
important ones.
Yeah, like you don't need to go, because a lot of moves are just, obvious. And there's not really, I mean, there might be a slightly more optimal move, but there'll be certain points in the game where there will be a killer move. And if you can't find it, the computer will. And you could do this on chess.com. You can play and do with full help. And if the longer you leave it and the deeper you let the engine go, it will find moves to you. You're like, what the fuck? But then like 4 moves later, that's actually incredible. So you play this amazing move and then you look at the sequence. So he would go to the toilet, look at his phone. So this is allegedly anyway, and then come back and make all these great moves. The dude won fucking all these games. And they're like looking back at the games and some of the moves are a bit sus. But there was a note on the phone saying, please do not touch this phone. The owner leaves it in here so he can check it overnight. That's what there was a note on the phone saying don't move it.
What?
Like it was just in the bathroom. It was so weird.
What the hell?
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Yeah, really weird. There's a video, Gotham Chess did a video that you can watch.
Because there's always this cheating. There's these fishermen were caught cheating with putting weights in their fish
Yes,
to make
I
them
saw
weigh
that,
more.
yeah.
But it was crazy because the fish would actually like be smaller than the winning fish.
This was for like competition fishing.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's the loads of, because there's a lot
Just
of prize
cheating
money
everywhere.
in those.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, but it's
30
just
grand
people
prize
cheating.
money.
Just stop cheating.
Thing is, it's such an incentive to cheat though, because also if you get away with it and win 30 grand, you're like, fuck, that's so much money. Like,
Yeah.
and what are you doing? You're not even getting in trouble often. Like if they even catch you, they just ban you from doing it from that fishing tournament. It's the Wild West. They could just
there's
go
too
to
many
another
people
side of the
cheating.
country.
It's just awful. People cheating in video games, people cheating in offline games,
Yeah.
people cheating. I'm sure it hasn't always been this way. We've become a race of cheaters.
I think
Stop.
we're maybe better at catching it though these days. I think people
The
have
human
always
race
cheated.
is just cheating
Stop
too
cheating.
much.
It is cheating. How do you think Donald Trump got to the top? Do you know what I mean? It wasn't fucking
You
like
can't say
playing
that.
it fair.
You don't have any proof.
That's fake news,
That's fake
buddy.
news, buddy.
So a graphic opera. So there's like a real serious thing. It's called Sancta. It's like a graphic opera, right? With
What does that mean, a graphic opera?
okay, so it's happening in Germany,
Right.
and there's like a boundary pushing show. Okay, it includes like naked roller skating nuns,
Right.
like crucified naked bodies with real blood, mutilation. Like it's gruesome. Okay.
So I'm just
but-
reading this. This headline says 18 people needed medical attention during this opera.
Yes, it was a bit. I think it must have gone a bit weird. One scene has a small piece of flesh cut from a performer, and another where 2 performers were pierced together, and then ropes were attached so they could lift up.
Oh
There
my
are certain
God.
lighting effects throughout which could also have been responsible, but apparently, 18 people have needed medical attention as a result of attending.
Oh, this sounds absolutely vile.
various-
Austrian choreographer Holzinger, 38, is known for her boundary-pushing performances, with her all-female casts often performing partly or fully naked, and previous shows have featured tattooing, masturbating, and action paintings with blood and fresh excrement. Fuck off. Guys, the Germans love all that. They are pushing some boundaries by using fresh scheiße on the canvas. If you cannot deal with it, you are part of the capitalist system and a problem. How dare you? This is art. Arse.
In an interview with the same outlet earlier this year, she said, "Good technique in dance to me is not just someone who can do a perfect tendu, but also someone who can urinate on cue."
Yes. Can you urinate on cue?
Perfect. Well, these
Shit.
guys don't. It's not like they're untalented. Holy crap! But yeah, I think it's
I
a
am
bit.
watching that.
It's a bit nutty. You
Yeah.
can go along to one of them if you want.
No,
Walk
What's
over.
the
When you're doing your German walk, in fact, you can pop in.
What do
we'll
people who
recreate
enjoy
it.
watching it like the most about it? What is it like? Is it like an erotic thing or something? Or
I don't know. I think performance art has never really done it for me. Maybe
No,
I'm the
I
wrong
don't.
We
audience,
will,
but-
we will push the boundaries by watching Pyrion Flax pop his blisters.
Oh my god! Don't pop your blisters, kids. You just leave them. Leave
Just
them
let
alone.
them-
Your
let
body
them-
knows what it's
let
doing.
them stay.
you know, like if somebody's not into gaming and says like, oh, what is it that you like about gaming? I like it's kind of hard to explain, but like obviously there's certain things in gaming that loop you in. You know, like there's like addictive qualities to it or whatever. That's gaming. But like for some of these like art forms, performance arts and stuff, I don't think I'll ever understand what the appeal is. Like
It's about shock, I
right.
think.
Yeah, but
It's
it's
about-
also that some of it is not shocking. Like this clearly is, but this isn't new. This kind of performance art with like naked people and wanking and shit everywhere. It's not pushing any boundaries.
Could do that
It
in
almost
prison.
did this. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just. I feel like I was reading about this stuff happening in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s. Like it's just.
Yeah.
I don't feel this is new. I feel like this is. It's meant to shock. It's provocative, but it's not. It's not making me think at all. It's just making me think, Christ, what a waste of however much this cost. Like this is just gross.
Yeah.
I really don't understand it.
God, imagine
And if you're into it, it's not
if
gross.
they're painting on stage with fresh excrement, it must stink in there. Realistically,
awful.
Like if there's a shit
I would be
loose-
worried they'd throw shit at me. Like I'm leaving. The moment.
Yeah,
food
even
comes
like
out, I'm
one
out.
little speck, I would be
I'm
not
out.
happy.
No.
But it must
well.
stink. Like it's out there.
Awful.
You know, it's not in the
Awful.
pipe. It's on
Yeah,
stage.
just pee and poo everywhere.
Somebody's pooped on a stage, and maybe smeared it everywhere too.
Ugh.
Yeah.
That's an hour and 20. So we should probably we should save our loose news for next
Yeah.
time. I don't want to blow our load.
No,
when
I
we've got
mean, gosh,
this much quality loose news.
yeah,
Jeez.
yeah.
Love it. I love it.
Good stuff. That was a podcast. That was a
That
podcast.
was.
That was definitely.
That
All right.
was.
Thank you, everyone. See you next time.
Goodbye.
Bye.